Thank you for staying with us. Now let's get the show started. Yesterday, the Petroleum Products Marketing Company, a subsidiary of the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, announced an increase in the ex-depot price of premium motor spirit, also known as petrol, from 147 naira 67 kobo to 155 naira and 17 kobo. Wow. That came as a shock to a lot of Nigerians.
Absolutely.
Because salaries are not going up.
Everything.
Prices are skyrocketing by the day. And with Christmas, just 5 weeks away, we're going to see prices just keep skyrocketing.
Especially at this time of the year.
So where do we go from here? We have joining us from our studios in Abuja, an energy expert, Mr. Olabode Shomi. Good morning, Mr. Shomi. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Now, we have heard all kinds of rumors. What exactly is going on in Abuja at the moment regarding this new price a price hike in petroleum products, PMS?
I think, to be fair, the way we heard it is probably the way everybody has heard it. And what seems to be happening in Abuja is really not any different from what's happening in Lagos. But to speak to the issues, which is basically the issues surrounding the fuel hike, one of the things that we are facing and the reality of the challenges that we're experiencing today is the fact that for a number of decades, Nigeria has been experiencing a subsidy on petroleum products. And during the COVID exercise, owing to the financial situation of the government, the subsidies were removed. The implication of that is that the government and the economy, the industry as it were, the products have been subject to the forces of demand and supply. What that means, or what that is supposed to mean in reality, is that if there's a push for increase as a result of demand and the interplay of demand and supply forces, the prices will go up. And if there's a pull, the prices could go down. In the light of that, it will appear that there has been a push on the prices and the prices has gone up. So that is the reality that is on ground at the moment.
How much would refining our own crude help our situation? I suppose this is all happening because we're importing almost every drop of petrol that we use in this country. If we were refining ourselves, how much would this help?
No, definitely it will help in many multiplier, in many effects. To put it in perspective, at the moment, we take the crude oil, we ship it, somebody refines it, they ship it back to us, and then we'll buy it. So basically, there's a cost that goes with the transportation to and fro, and of course, there's also a cost for the refining. All of those costs are ultimately borne by one person, the final consumer, that is the man on the street. What it means in simple terms is that if we were to refine in-house in the country, we're going to eliminate the cost of shipping, but more importantly, we're also going to provide jobs for a few people who will have, in the traditional African sense, one or two other people that are depending upon them. But having said that, when things like subsidies are removed from a particular product or a particular service, one of the responsibilities of government, especially when it is government subsidy, is that there should be certain cushion effects along the path, which is supposed to, as the word implies, cushion the effect of these prices. It will be difficult to know what particular policies or processes or activities were put in place to cushion the effects. It is true, yes, that there's a need for refining. Even nations that don't have any oil have a number of refineries such that they just buy crude oil, refine it, and sell to their population. So, in reality, Nigeria did not actually start this way. For a number of years, we had crude, and we were processing and refining more petrol and diesel than we needed. But over the years, owing to the imperfections and limitations with government-run systems, the refineries went catamount. A lot of efforts were put into, and monies too, were put into getting the refineries revamped, but it did not quite work out. So at the moment, we have, like everybody else knows, the Dangote refinery, which is built to come up in about a year and a half or two from now. But what is probably more important is that there should be some other refineries that will be in place in scattered places across the nation, such that at a point in time, the issue of refining does not have to be localized to one player or a few players, but rather it will be something that will be ubiquitous to everywhere within the nation. I think that should be the way to go in terms of refining.
Well, Mr. Shomi, that conversation has been ongoing for a while. A number of people have been talking about what you would call modular refineries and all of that. But I guess we're still waiting because, I mean, government had talked about giving some licenses to a few people to take off. And part of the complaint that we have had is that it's very, very capital intensive, and consequently that there's a challenge there. Now, with that, would you call that a misstep on the part of government to not put those, what you call those incentives in place and then get these, at least see some movement in the direction of local refining, even if it is by this local the private sector operators? You see that as a misstep, or it's something that just comes with the territory?
No, I won't call it as a misstep. On the contrary, my thinking and my clear thoughts will be that there hasn't been enough interrogation and introspection into the activities concerning modular refining. Modular refining in reality is technically not any different from any other refining. But what has happened is that the processes for people to get the licenses for that, I think we will need the media, the CSOs, and I mean interested stakeholders to shed more, to beam some light on that, so that Nigerians can understand what is exactly happening there. Yes, it is capital intensive, but it should be understood like anything in all of these engineering-related industries, whether it is even works, whether it is power, they are not. The monies involved are not what you pick from the back pocket or from a savings account. There is syndicated financing options. There is foreign options for financing all these projects. I mean, there are a number of options available. What is important is for you to get your commercials right, get your pricing in a properly structured manner. It is also important for you to have a proper business plan, to have the people that you are going to supply and get your products to have a certain formula for mitigating risk.
Okay.
Once you have all of those things
yes,
in place,
just a
there will be
moment.
financing that will come.
Yes, just a moment. My question is along the line of, okay, this is coming. We all knew it would get to this. I mean, when the NNPC GMD made the announcement that fuel subsidy was gone for good, and he also said it that as crude oil price increases, there is the likelihood that the fuel price will also increase across board. He made that clear ab initio. But there is also that reference to some form of cushioning on the part of maybe the government or whoever could, to cushion the effect of the fuel price increase on the people. I'm just saying that because that didn't happen, I mean, there isn't anything now, because, I mean, if there was, the first time the increase happened, I mean, people would probably have felt it. I don't know if anyone could say that. Is that kind of thing likely to happen again? And that's why I'm asking if it was a misstep to have done something to make sure that, okay, we can have some hope that indeed this effect will not be too strong on the people.
Well, thank you, and thanks for the clarity. When the GMD said they had measures for cushioning, I think that statement should have been interrogated further. Because when you say measures for cushioning, what he understood by cushioning may be a different message to what the people on the street appreciate as cushioning. So when the government, in practical terms, said they had measures to ensure that the price hike will be cushioned so that it won't have galloping inflation and the expected effects. That should have been interrogated further. And some of the details should have been looked at, and that should have formed conversations within the media, within radio stations, in terms of how this can impact society and the options that are available. So I'm sorry to say, but at this time, maybe some of the fault may have been on the part of the media who didn't go into more details by actually asking questions on the realities of those statements. Because sometimes statements can actually be political or they can appear in phantom. And it is also our responsibilities to ensure that some of what could have been political will be dissected properly in a language that the common man can understand.
Does it also need to take the media to recognize and identify the fact that every fuel price increase has had crunching economic effect on the people? Does it take the media for anyone, for government to know that and consequently think along that line? Because every time there has been a fuel price increase, there has been reactions from the people. There has been strikes. There has been riots in some cases. You would also remember in June in 2012 when the fuel price increase happened, the federal government had a taste of the people with what we call the Occupy Nigeria protests, which was as a result of a fuel price increase. So if that kind of thing had been in the plan or in the thinking of government, does it need the media or anyone to try to mitigate that?
Well, definitely what you have said, they are obvious things. I mean, they are, to use the proverbial cliche, they are visible to the blind. However, a responsible society is a responsibility of all. It's not just a responsibility of government. There are many reasons why government may be ineffective in doing the right thing. And I'm not trying to hold brief for government. But the original concept behind CSOs or non-governmental organizations is because all over the world, there are gaps owing to bureaucracies, owing to inefficiencies within a particular government system that society needs. And it is those things that those NGOs try to achieve. And that's why they are called non-governmental organizations, and that's why they don't pay taxes. But that is just talking about government in terms of a broad spectrum at the moment. When the Nigerian government made this effort, there will obviously be certain things in their thinking before they came, before that led to the processes of increase in price. Sometimes that thinking needs to be x-rayed to understand what they are looking at. And it is on the basis of understanding their own thinking, and you can put it side by side, the realities, that we can make informed judgment. Because at this time, we can only see the effect of things, and we can only look at the effects in terms of the economy. So there definitely must have been something informing their thinking. What is the responsibility of every other stakeholder is to ensure that all the factors are put on the table so that the man on the street can make an informed judgment. It is also true that there's a responsibility of government to ensure that there is effective communication along all the communication channels. Government has multiple avenues for them to ensure proper communication to the people. But again, that may be an inefficiency in the government structure. The key thing, the point I'm trying to make at the end of all of this is that there will definitely be some thinking. That thinking may not have been thoroughly thought through. That thinking may even be faulty. But until you know what the thinking is, you cannot actually know why they came up with this. But what we can know and what we can assume on the surface of what is happening is the fact that we are currently in a regime that is without subsidies, and these are some of the effects of subsidies. And what we believe is that it is in the interest of government itself to ensure that there is no galloping inflation in the nation. It is in the interest of government itself to ensure that the people are not restive. It is in the interest of government itself to ensure that there are no riots in the street owing to hardship in the lives of people. And it is also in our own interest that these things do not happen and we have a peaceful nation. So how do we merge this interest that everybody has? I think that will be the question for everybody. So there definitely must be an interrogation into the thinking of government to know what economic palliatives, what economic principles they have in mind to ensure that the increase in fuel price does not automatically lead to galloping inflation in the nation. I think that is also important to get from government. And with that, we can go more into the details of the governance and the details of the economic issues.
Okay, Mr. Shome, I want us to look at this issue of refineries a bit more. Before now, we had been told that we didn't have local refineries because the sector was regulated. Now, earlier this year, the sector was deregulated, but we don't see companies and people falling over themselves to get licenses to open refineries. How would you explain that?
Well, let me try and correct a perception misnomer, is that there's no sector that is not regulated. There are just differences in regulation. The media, which has probably the highest number of private people, is regulated. The banking sector is regulated. Telecoms, which has no government player, is also regulated. So the regulation is a part of the free capital market enterprise, and regulation has its role. But what you have had is a case of where there are maybe only government players, which has been what has happened before in the case of the refinery. Like I said, government has said that there should be more players. It is the responsibility of all of us who are also stakeholders in the industry to interrogate what is happening there. Maybe the DPR, who is the government body with the that is incumbent upon them to grant licenses, need to explain what is happening. They need to explain what incentives are being given to local people so that they can have refineries. Because they are the ones, that's where the rubber touches the road. So they need to give more explanation to Nigerians. What we can do is that on the basis of the data and the information they give, we can analyze it and look at what are best practices and best principles. But in terms of the realities that is happening on the ground, in terms of the government decisions that are taking place, it is the government players and the man who makes the decision that owes it to Nigerians to let us know exactly what is happening. And that, I believe, is where the media comes in. The media has the right, the media has the moral authority to be able to badge on their door, to be able to knock on their door, to be able to ask them tough questions, and so that they will elicit the correct information whether they want to or not. And it is that processes that ensures a robust engagement within the industry. Let it be understood that every industry that is working very well, that is following the proper forces of demand and supply, has very strong media intervention. And that is not peculiar to Nigeria, that is all over the world. So the media needs to be asked, the government needs to be asked by the media, by civil society, on the realities of what is happening. They need to be asked on why the details of people getting licenses are not available. They need to be asked what options, because these are early stages, what financial cushions are available, what palliatives are available for Nigerians who want to engage as entrepreneurs in those areas. Those are questions that need to be asked them. And unfortunately, I'm not in government in that light and may not be able to provide those details.
We heard of a modular refinery in Edo State. Please correct me if I am wrong. Maybe I heard wrong, and we heard that would probably come on stream by the end of this year.
Well, it's not just Edo State. There was even also another option in Rivers, based on information available to me. And there was another one in Ogun East, somewhere around Ogun Waterside. And there probably may be other options depending on whether they have made applications for licenses within the DPR, who is the government regulator, the government regulator and the agency responsible for granting these licenses. But the challenge is not even the modular refinery, because the modular refinery is such that it is limited in capacity, usually for a particular area. You can actually have a modular refinery the size of this house, the size of this room. Those are options that are available, and it could produce only diesel. Those are
Mr.
options.
Shomi,
but
I beg your pardon. Can you just hold that thought? We'll just go on a short break, come back and continue this conversation. Welcome back. Now, Mr. Shomi, could you just round up your thoughts about the modular refineries springing up around the country?
Thank you very much. The modular refineries springing up around the country is a welcome development, and it's another way of showing that the industry has capacity to grow. It should be encouraged. More people should be encouraged to get into it. Yes, it's a technical industry, but the operations of it is not technical. It's going to follow all the basic principles of operating another plant. So anybody who has an interest in the industry should be encouraged to go into it. Government will also be asked what they are doing to ensure that people get into it. You can have modular refineries anywhere in the country, from the arid regions of Borno to Sokoto to Lokoja. Anyway, you can really have, and you can have modular refineries that can take care of a local government. You can have one that can take care of a state. So people should be encouraged to get into it. That is definitely should be the message coming from this area.
Thank you very much, Mr. Olabode Showme, an energy expert.